I don't care what type of art you create, anime, pottery, cooking, knitting, painting, singing. This might be the most important video you watch. And I know I've said that before, but stick with me. It's a big claim. I know. All right, let's talk about one of my favorite authors. Her name's Brené Brown, and she talks about something called creativity scars. Here's what she says. I used to believe, before I did the research for The Gifts of Imperfection, that there were creative people and there were non-creative people. And now I absolutely understand personally and professionally from data that there is no such thing as non-creative people. Mind blown. There are just people who use their creativity and people who don't. And I love what she says at the end here, friends. And unused creativity is not benign. Now, I've read pretty much everything that Brené has put out into the world. And so I feel fairly okay sharing what I think she means here, because she talks a lot about the lies that we tell ourselves as we journey through this thing called life. I'm going to go and venture to say that the folks that don't use the creativity that they're essentially born with have somewhere along the way been told they didn't deserve to use that creativity. We're about to get raw and real here, friends, because I know many of us are wrestling with creative wounds that we have never healed from, and they're stifling us. And it's no big deal when you're going about your life and you're not trying to create, draw, paint, whatever. But when an individual who has a creative wound or an art wound comes back to the creative thing, everything comes to a head. So all that fear, the frozenness in front of the blank page that you've been feeling, it has an origin story, and we're going to get at it today, friends. Recently on TikTok, I invited folks to share their art wound stories with me. And it's not the first time I've experienced stories like this, but I was still blown away and heartbroken for so many of you. Let's take a look at a few. 4th grade, it was spring. We painted outside, trees full of green leaves. But I made them yellow and red. Teacher was angry and chastised me for the colors. My art teacher asked if I was planning to be an artist. I said no, an archaeologist. He says, oh good, because you don't have the talent for this. In 8th grade, we had to draw outlines of the alphabet and then decorate them. I took artistic license with the letter K. In a play on words, I filled the K with little carrots. Of course, I knew carrot was spelled with C. My teacher had to make fun of me. My art teacher always expected perfection, never had anything kind to say because I wasn't naturally talented. I still struggle to have fun now. Okay, look, I know that these aren't crazy, horrible, trauma-like experiences, but when it comes to creativity, they're impactful. When someone tells you, you suck, you're not good enough, you shouldn't pursue this as a child, what do you think happens? Someone in authority is telling you that this isn't your game, this isn't your wheelhouse. And so as a child, you listen and you're like, okay, I guess I do suck. But our drive, our chasing of creativity, it never leaves us. And if you have that rumbling in your soul to create art, it's gonna always rumble. And that's why so many of us come back to it when we've experienced some kind of stress in our lives. Dare I say 2020, we all experienced a ton of stress in our lives, and so many people came back to art. And when they did, their stories told me the stories of their past. So many wounds came to the surface. But friends, I'm here to tell you, I have a solution. And it's not an easy solution, but stick with me. We'll get there soon. I agree with Brené Brown. I believe, and I've believed this for most of my life, that we're all creative. It's in our DNA to figure out ways to navigate our world in a way that makes us feel inspired, enlightened, and joyful. The difference is that some of us are encouraged and some of us are not. And honestly, many of us are not only not encouraged, we're discouraged from creating art. I feel it, Sassy Christie's coming out. So what happens when our creations, those core experience of making and then seeking kindness and validation for what we've made, are squashed at an early age? Brené, I think, would say that in this moment, we begin telling ourselves lies. Yes, even at an early age, one moment where our creations are rejected as young humans and we begin to create core memories. Yes, I'm sorry for the Disney reference. Please forgive me. We create these core memories filled with I can't, I won't, and I should never again. Okay, so if you're sitting here and you're like internally screaming, yes, Christy, this is me, I've got 3 ways that you can deal with and begin to get past your creative wounds quickly. All right, number 1, and this starts now, I want you to head into comments and share your story. I can't express to you the importance of this step enough. Seeing the sheer volume of others who share your experiences does wonders to relieve the heaviness of years or decades old wounds. You cannot go to the next steps without this step. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing publicly, I invite you to share with me DMs on Instagram at Christy the Painter, or just email me directly, hello@christyrice.com. Okay, I love this next one. Number 2, develop a habit of what I call creative belligerence. Let me explain. Those of us with deep art wounds are often frozen in front of the blank page. The lies others have told us and the same we've told ourselves seem to appear before us in big bold text, reminding us that we're silly for even trying. We'll never create something worthwhile, and we flee, having created nothing. Or we create a little bit and we are so critical of what's on the page. It will take a few weeks to fully develop this habit. And that leads me to my last tip. Number 3, be prepared to create anywhere. So in my book, Making Art for Joy's Sake, I talk about this idea of a magic cup. And we're going to have a little spin on that today. So it's a little section in my book. You could miss it easily, but it's where I talk about grabbing a cup, make sure it's pretty because you're going to want to have it out in the open for everyone to see, and you're going to fill it with your favorite art supplies. It shouldn't be big. It shouldn't take up a lot of space. And honestly, you might want to create a couple of these and have them in places where you are often living life, maybe even one in the car. It's your little cup of wonderful supplies that are at the ready whenever you feel the smallest itch to create, so that you can capitalize on even the smallest moments of motivation. Because when you feel motivated in the coming weeks, I want you to follow that motivation without fail. Go after it. Create the first thing that comes to mind. I've created an alternate to the magic cup, and I'm using the Art for Joy's Sake brush collection, the little pouch that comes with it. And I'm filling it with a pencil, one of my favorites, my favorite dagger brush, the 1/4 inch Art for Joy's Sake dagger brush, a few small pieces of paper, the tiniest palette I have, and a little bit of paper towel. And this pouch I can zip up and take with me anywhere so that I can commit to developing this habit of the moment I feel inspiration, before my brain even has a chance to tell me, don't paint, you're not good enough, you know, all the lies. Before that even happens, I'm already starting the process of making art. You have to be bold. You have to be belligerent, friends, because your art wound is never going away. It will always be there. But you can learn to punch it in the face. In just a few weeks, where you listen to your creative momentum and you put a couple scribbles down on a page, anytime you feel the slightest inkling, that creative belligerence will serve you well. It will begin to outshine the lies. Your belligerence creatively will start to feel like pure and beautiful empowerment. All right, friends, as you're creating your magic cup or your magic pouch full of supplies to get ready for this next step in your journey, I want you to watch and listen to this advice that will absolutely transform your art making journey. Friends, I love you. I'm here for you. And until next time, so much happy painting.